Hi everyone, this is Terry. Today we're going to open up the decorative fills that we've created in our software on our machine. Now it doesn't matter if you own a Luminaire or a Solaris, as long as you have either PE Design 11 or Palette 11, you're able to create your own decorative fills and motif files. We will store some in our file section so you can follow along with us. Let me mention that some of those that are shared may not be perfected yet. So just understand you're getting something for free and it may have some jump stitches or maybe it needs to be refined. That's how we learn how to do things. So where are these files? Well, you'll notice right here in my Explorer file on my computer, it's Program Files 86. I have Brother, PE Design 11, and I'm in a folder that's called Pattern. Now, I've selected several of these patterns that I want to copy to my USB stick. And the way to do that is to just go down through the list and select those that you want. So you see I've selected the pumpkin, and then I've selected the sun, a sunflower, and remember ugly? I selected it too. Now what I want to do is to copy these to the USB drive. What I can do is just choose copy. Then on my USB drive, I'll find a pocket here in my B pocket, and I'll just go ahead and copy them to the B pocket. You could go ahead and create a new folder. In fact, let me do that, and I'll call it Patterns. And in my Patterns folder, I'll just choose Paste. Now you see all the files that I copied. So I need to eject my USB drive. I'll right mouse click and choose eject. All right. And once you get a message that it's safe to remove that drive, you can do so. So closing out of this, let's just go to the computer. So we're at the machine, and now what we're going to do is go into My Design Center or IQ Designer and open it. The first thing I want to do is to select a shape for what I call the bucket or container. I'll use a hoop, and I'll choose the 10 5/8 by 10 5/8 hoop. Now, I could have selected the type of stitch that I wanted, but I want to show you for the outline stitches, which are right here. You can either go into the properties and you can select no sew. That's what no sew is right here. Or you can click on the stitch. It takes you to the same place and you can choose no sew. What this is telling the machine is we're not going to have an outline stitch here unless we select it as we progress through applying the stitches. So now I want to go to the area that contains the fill stitches. That's the second area right here. And we can go right back into the stitch, and we want to choose Decorative Fill, choose Select, and select Custom. Now you'll notice that I've brought a couple of those stitches into my machine. I'll go to the folder, which is in my B pocket, Patterns, and I've already got the sunflower. Let's get ugly and choose OK. So now that's how you can choose to bring in these designs. There are a couple of things I want to tell you here. This will store up to 12 designs, and then when you add the 13th design, it will overwrite the first one. So let's just say you stored something in memory, and you saved it in My Design Center or IQ Designer. What will happen is the newest stitch or the 13th stitch that you choose will overwrite the first one. If you happen to bring the design over to embroidery, however, and you save it, you'll have the pattern. And that's why I tell you to write all your patterns onto a USB stick, and that way you can add to the different patterns, and you can delete these here as you need to. So I'll go ahead and choose OK, and let's make ugly blue and choose OK. Now we need to take the bucket and fill that bucket. So you can see what this design would look like. Let's choose next, and we'll look at the properties. Now I like to go into settings, and I personally prefer looking at stitches in millimeters. So right now this design is at 100%, which at the time I designed it was like a 4-inch block. You can see that it matched up fairly well across the design area for a 10 and 5/8 by 10 and 5/8 hoop. I can make this larger, and this will go up to 200%. Choose OK, and you can see what the design would look like. Likewise, I can make it smaller, which would make it fairly dense. And for quilting, I personally don't care for dense quilting stitches unless they're micro stipple and you use a very fine thread. So this is at 50%. We're just going to change it back to 100% and choose OK. Now let's talk about a few other things. You can also change the direction, and I call this the angle. So at 30%, or 30 degrees, excuse me, this is what that design would look like. You can change it to something that is pleasing to you, and in some instances it will reduce the number of jump stitches. The other thing you can do is you can turn the outline stitch on or off. What this means is it will actually go all the way around this block and create an outline. Now, one of the things that an outline does is it eliminates a lot of jump stitches, but it may not be appropriate for you to have a outline shape for something. If you were quilting a block and you were going to use that outline, let's say to trim that block, it would be fine. Or if you were trimming somewhere inside that outline. So right now we'll leave it off, and let's look at the next area. This is called random shift, and we have several types of random shift. If we select a random shift, let's just say 3, we can choose from type A, B, and C. So we'll go ahead and look at what happens to these lines. You see it really distorts it, and this might be interesting, and particularly in something, let's say that you had like a haunted house or something, and you wanted it to look like there were mirrors that distorted everything. This might be interesting. So you can play around with the random shift. For right now, I'm going to remove the random shift, and you at least know where it is. The next area that we have is an area where you can move what is called the offset. Now the offset actually shifts your design. So I'll change this to 5.5. Look at the screen right now and see if you can see how it moved the design. Sometimes you have to look along the edge so you can see the shift. It's really noticeable when you have like a design like a flower or something that's in the center of the screen and you're trying to shift it. The next area is called thickness. Now, I personally do not like my quilting patterns to be triple stitch. If I was making a pillow though, I might want a triple stitch. And maybe you like a triple stitch. But for right now, I'm just going to choose what it looks like a single stitch. It is, in some instances, a double stitch because it has to use the path and double over itself to complete a stitch. So now we're ready to set this design. One of the things I like to do is go up here to the top and look at information. So I can see that this particular design is going to be 2,742 stitches. It's 267 by 267 millimeters roughly. Remind yourself that 100 millimeters is 4 inches, so you know it's bigger than 8 inches at least. You can look at it with a different background, which may not be entirely visible on the video for you. And you can also see how long it will take to stitch out this design. Let's close that and let's look at the stitch simulator. Now you can actually zoom into your area so you can see it more closely, and you'll notice that it's showing you that this design is going to fit into a hoop that is larger than 3 of the hoops that came with your machine. So this is the 10 and 5/8 inch hoop, and what we're going to do is play this on the screen. You can see how this stitch is going to form. And you can tell in some instances if it backtracks over itself. But you're really not going to know a lot about the jump stitches unless you look at them in the software or you stitch out this design. I'll go ahead and choose close. Now what I want to do is to turn on the outline stitch so you can see what that looks like. We used to have this defaulted to on, and based on requests by people, they've turned it off. So let's go back to the stitch player, and I like to zoom in so I can see everything. And we'll go ahead and stitch this out again. By the way, you can speed it up right here as well. So you can see that in some instances, again, it backtracks. And then you'll also notice as it gets to the end, what it does is it creates the outline stitch all the way around this design and closes it off. So now that I've saved the design, let's say I'm working on a Kimberbell quilt or another quilt, and I want to have a background behind a block. I have it right here. Okay, now that we're actually here in embroidery, I do want to show you something else. So I'll just delete this from the screen. So I'll just look at another design that I created, and I'll go into category 9 this time and choose this fish and choose set. Now I'll go back to edit, to background fills. Let me show you each of these icons while we're here. So with stippling, you can change the distance away from the design. And so I'll increase that distance. You can change your hoop size. Let's change this to 10 and 5/8 by 10 and 5/8. You can also change the spacing, which means the size of the stippling. So we'll change the spacing on it. And you can see what a nice job that you get with the built-in stippling stitches. Let's look at the Echo Quilting. With the Echo Quilting, you can change the distance and you can also change the spacing. So if I wanted to say increase the spacing, It'll take a moment for it to calculate it. You can see what you can get. Now, you can also do echo quilting in your software. I think there are two different types of echo quilting available in the software. Let's go back to the decorative fills and choose select. Let's go back to our custom fills and let's see what it looks like with our ugly design in the background. Not bad. And again, you can change the distance if you want. Right now, it's closing itself off right around the outline of the fish. I have this set at 100%. You can reduce the percentage if you want, or you can increase the percentage. All right, we're going to travel back home and we'll go back into my design center in IQ Designer, because I want to show you that you can also use the background fills that you created as shapes. In the first category, you have outlines, you have filled, and you have outline and filled shapes. So you can see the representation of that right here. So let's say that what you wanted to do is to create a flower, and we'll go ahead and choose OK. And with this flower on the outline, we're going to use one of those motif fills that we created in an earlier exercise. So we'll click on the icon for the outline. We'll go to the motif fills. We'll choose select and go to custom. Now, let's say that what I'm going to do is to use this little leaf outline, and I'll choose OK. And I'll make that green and choose OK. Take the bucket and apply that to the outline. You can't see it here, but the stitch has been applied because it changed the color on the screen from black to green. Now let's go to the fill stitch. We'll go to our custom fills and let's choose a fill stitch. I think what I'm going to do is put pumpkins in the inside of the flower shape. So I'll go ahead and choose OK. I'll make those pumpkins orange and choose OK. Take the bucket, apply it to the inside, and now let's choose next. So now you can see the leaf pattern, you can see the pumpkin in the center, and if you want to, you can actually zoom in to as high as 400%, and you can take your hand and pan the screen. So you can see how these stitches are going to fill up along that outside of the design. I'll take it back to 100%, and we're going to make a couple of fun changes. So the first thing we're going to do is cycle through our stitches. And up here at the top, we're going to cycle to the leaves. Now, I'm going to change the height of the leaves and the distance. So I'll increase the size of the leaves. And you can make them fairly large, but we'll use what we have here on the screen. And then we're also going to change the distance between those leaves and increase that spacing a little bit. That was fun. The other thing we can do is we can flip those leaves from either the inside or the outside. Right now I do want it on the outside because I don't want it inside the pumpkin, so I'll say OK. Now the next thing we're going to do is use the arrow, and we'll choose the design that is the pumpkin. You can see it right here. It's at 100%, which is rather large for this design and the shape of this flower. So I'm going to move it down to 50%. And I'm going to make it a little more interesting by changing the direction of the fill. That's better. Let's go ahead and turn the outline on. That will stitch underneath the leaves, and you can see that outline under the leaves. And we'll go ahead and change this with some random shift. Now, what this will do is distort the size and shape of those pumpkins so they're not all equal. That makes it kind of interesting. We might want to go back and change it just a little. So we won't be so severe with it. Okay, that's better. And the other thing that I can do is go in and change position offset if I want. Now remember, I told you this shifts the design. So if I try to shift this design, and this is in inches so that the center pumpkins aren't right in the center, let's see what happens. You can see that that's changed the look of it quite a bit, and I actually like it better. Now I can choose whether I want to have this as a triple stitch or if I want it to be a single run. I think I'll go ahead and have it as a triple stitch. Now let's go up here and let's look at our player, and we'll watch this stitch out. And you do have to press start. Okay, you can see that it's creating that outline, and then it's creating each of the pumpkins that I basically traced within my software and programmable stitch creator. And it gives you an idea that your work doesn't necessarily have to be perfect to make it interesting. So this might be cute on something like a coaster or a mug rug for the holidays. I'll go ahead and close it, and let's see how many stitches it will be. It's 4,445 stitches. I hope this video is helpful to you. If you have questions, just let me know. You can upload the designs that you created into the files section of the group. One thing that I'll ask you to do is to add your first name and last initial at the end of your designs. That way it won't overwrite somebody else's if they have a similar name. And the other thing, it will help those people who don't have software to get it inspired, and possibly they may want to make that purchase. So I'm Terry Maffitt. I look forward to talking to you again and sharing my knowledge with you. Thanks everyone, and have a good day.